Hey y'all, today we're making homemade maple sugar. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is a heavy pot, and you're going to need some pure maple syrup. Now, I wasn't going to put a recipe in the description box for y'all for this video because the only ingredient is maple syrup, but because there are some steps and a temperature you need to reach and things like that, I think I will put one down there just so y'all will have something to look at if you decide to make this. So I am adding 2 cups of maple syrup to my pot. You can use as little or as much as you want. I'm just using 2 cups. It's about half this bottle. You know, but there's no amount you have to use. If you want to make a whole bunch, you can do a whole bunch. If you just want to make a little bit, just do a little bit, okay? But I thought 2 cups was a good amount, so that's what I went with. So you're going to want to heat this up, and you're going to let it come to a boil, and then you're going to boil until it reaches 262 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? We want to get it to that stage because we want this to crystallize, right? Not in the pan. We want it to, you know, we want it to get to that point. I think it's is it the hard crack stage, or was that another recipe I was looking at? I don't remember, but it does need to be 262 degrees Fahrenheit. So you see how it's bubbling like that? That's why you want to use a deep pot for this, okay? And make sure you use a spoon, or in my case, you know, y'all see, something that's long so your hand is not right down there in that heat, okay? Once it reaches 262 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to pour that into a mixing bowl. Now, as you can see, I am using my stand mixer. I don't recommend this, okay? I don't recommend it. And you're going to see why in a minute. You can use a hand mixer for this. Just make sure that the bowl you use is deep so that you don't sling that everywhere, because it's really, really hot and it's, you know, sticky, and it's going to burn really, really bad if you get it on you. But, yeah, if you use your hand mixer, just use one of the beaters, okay? I was just showing y'all the little balls of maple syrup that fell off when I was pouring it. I thought they were cute. Anyway, but if you use a stand mixer, you'll do it just like I'm showing you, but you might have the same problem that I did. Y'all might be wondering why I'm even making maple sugar. Okay, let me tell y'all. So way back when I made my instant oatmeal, okay, the instant oatmeal video, which that oatmeal is so good, y'all. If you have not made that instant oatmeal yet, go watch that video and make that oatmeal. It is so good. It's very quick to make, but it tastes like you stood over the stove and cooked it for 30 minutes. Anyway, I digress. So somebody had asked me how would they make a maple and brown sugar, because that was their favorite. Several somebodies asked me that. Well, I knew that you would need maple flavoring, but like in my brain, I wasn't sure how I was going to get the maple flavor into it. And then somebody commented on the video that their son made his own maple sugar. And it's not something I had even thought about looking into. Excuse me. But once she said that, I was like, I'm going to have to put that in my notebook and come back to that, because I feel like I might want to do that. So here we are. But I couldn't find her comment, because I think in her comment she told me how he did it. I couldn't find the comment. So I watched a lot of videos, looked at a lot of things, read a lot of things, and basically every single person does this the exact same way. They may just change up what they mix it with, you know, like the stand mixer, hand mixer, whatever. But basically it's all the same thing. It's pure maple syrup, heat it to 262 degrees Fahrenheit, and then beat the fire out of it until it turns into sugar. So you could see it turned like a lighter color, sort of a caramel, you know, consistency, like a loose caramel consistency. And now it has turned solid, okay? So, anywho, the reason that I said don't use your stand mixer, now I've made this comment before that I have issues, you know, when you're making something with your stand mixer, you have to stop, scrape your bowl down, keep going, scrape your bowl, you know, because sometimes it doesn't get the things that are underneath, right? Because usually your whisk or your paddle or whatever you're using in your stand mixer doesn't reach quite to the bottom of the bowl. Excuse me, y'all. And that's the case with mine. Now, somebody did tell me that you can adjust that, but I haven't tried it yet. So what happened with mine is because my whisk was not touching every surface of my bowl where my syrup was, some of my syrup just stuck to my bowl and hardened. Just stuck over there and hung out, and I didn't realize it till right now. I get my little silicone spatula out because that's what and then look, it won't move. It is stuck to the sides of my bowl. And I was about to panic. I was like, oh my gosh, if this is rock hard stuck to my bowl, I'm never going to get it out of here. So I got me a spoon out and I thought, let me see if I can break it loose. And fortunately, I was able to just kind of break it loose with a spoon. And you see how much darker, well, you will see in a second, how much darker the color is of it underneath. So once I got it scraped off the sides of my bowl, I just let it whisk for a little bit longer until all of those pieces were completely dried out. Okay. This will take you, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 minutes from start to finish. I mean, once you get it in your mixing bowl. So, but like I said, I would recommend doing this with a hand mixer because your hand mixer, you can get it into all the nooks and crannies where the stand mixer doesn't really do that. So there are times when your stand mixer is better, in my opinion, for doing certain things. And then there are times when your hand mixer, good old fashioned hand mixer, would do even better. So this is one of those times. So I'm just letting y'all see how I did it. If you choose to use your stand mixer, you absolutely can. You may not have this problem, but just know that you might. You know, I'm just leaving it in here just in case. So now what I'm going to do, because I'm making sugar, right? I don't want these big rocks in my sugar. So I'm taking just my fine strainer and I'm going to strain all of the fine sugar out of there. And I'm putting it on this parchment paper because I want to make sure that everything is completely cooled down before I put it in my jar. If you put it in the jar and it's still warm, it's going to create some moisture, which means your stuff is going to clump up and it's not going to last as long. Okay. Because you get moisture in there, then what are you standing, the chance of it molding, right? And we don't want that. We work too hard for this. And maple syrup is expensive. So is this something that I'm going to do every day? Probably not. But it's great to know that you can do this if you want to do it. Plus, maple syrup has a lower glycemic index even than honey, okay? So it will not spike your blood sugar like other sweeteners will. So it's definitely a really good alternative, especially if you, maybe you're diabetic or something, or maybe you're just, watching your health or whatever, and you just want something a little healthier. And it tastes really, really good, y'all. So if you've never had maple sugar, give it a little taste. It's delicious. It'll swap also 1-to-1 for sugar. So if you have a recipe that calls for sugar, you can swap maple sugar in there at a 1-to-1 ratio. And you're just going to get extra yummy flavor because you're going to have that little hint of maple, in whatever recipe. So I know there's a lot of recipes where that would be really, really good. I'm kind of thinking like an apple cake or something like that would be really good with some maple sugar in it. But anyway, moving on. So I separated out my fine sugar. Then I went and I got my little slotted spoon with the little small holes and separated the really big pieces from the smaller pieces. Now, the reason I did that, almost every video I watched, they kept the little tiny like granules, like you can see that are in my strainer, the ones that are left behind after I get the big pieces out. Because a lot of people said those are really good, like if you want to put them in like overnight oats or just a bowl of oatmeal or in your coffee or something, that was really good for that. So I thought, my sister just bought a new house and, I wanted to give her some homemade goodies for her house, and she's a coffee drinker. Y'all know I'm not. But I thought I will keep some of these granules like this and I will give those to her so she can have those in her coffee. And then the bigger pieces, what I did with those is I put those into my food processor, and we are just going to break those down into smaller pieces. Now, if you don't want the granules that you see right there in my strainer, you can get a, maybe your high-speed blender. I find if it's not like a pretty good volume in my high-speed blender, it doesn't blend down to a powder so much. But you can get like a coffee bean grinder. That's what I have when I do like like making garlic powder and things like that from the stuff I dehydrate. I'll use that the coffee bean grinder to get my seasonings to a fine powder. Okay, it's small, it doesn't hold a whole lot, so you'll have to do it, you know, several batches or whatever, but it works great if you're trying to get something more powdery. Okay, so, but like I said, I wanted some, you know, the bigger granules like for the coffee and stuff, so that's the way I chose to do mine. But you can do yours any way you want to. If you wanted to keep those really big pieces because you think that you could do something with them, I mean, I'm sure you could throw the really big pieces into a cup of coffee or something. But it's yours. You're making it at your house for whatever fits your needs. Do it however you want to. But I put this, like I said, in my food processor until I had everything broken down into smaller pieces. And if you're going to do this, you know, if you have the problem I did and you need to break the pieces down, just pulse your food processor, because those pieces are very, very hard. And you don't want to, you know, mess your blades up or tear up your food processor. So you could also do this in a blender if you have like a good blender or whatever. I did just buy me a new blender, y'all, and it is nice, but I haven't used it yet. It's just sitting over there looking at me, begging to be used. So anyway, once I got everything broken down like I wanted it, I just separated it out into jars. I ended up with a jar and a half of the big granules that you see me messing with right there, and a jar and a half of the powder. Now the jars I'm talking about that's a 1 cup jar. Okay, so I ended up with a cup and a half of each one of these. Okay, which, you know, pretty much makes sense because we used 2 cups of maple syrup, so we got a little bit more than that. But that is how much I ended up getting. And like I said, these are going to make great little gifts to give to people. You can make, you know, give them like a little tiny jar just so they can try it out or whatever. Or if you just don't want to use regular sugar anymore, or whatever the case is, now you know how to make maple sugar. It really is easy, y'all. It really is easy. But again, just, you know, pick your battles. Don't use your stand mixer, in my opinion. But if you're going to do it with a hand mixer, just be very, very careful because it is very, very hot and sticky, okay? So that is what we ended up with. We ended up with the granules that are great for coffee, I've been told, and our powdered, or it's not powdered, but our granulated maple sugar also. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope that y'all are going to make this. That is all I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.